Now, today's movie is a classic. Now, I know I throw the word classic around a lot, so we need a new movie to describe these movies that are actually true classics. So I'm thinking of the word spazzle. So today's movie is a spazzle. It is the inspiring true story of a man who gets bitten by a wolf and then becomes a wolf himself. The Wolfman from 1941. Universal Pictures. Original monster movie. As I said, it's a spazzle. Now, this movie starts, as every good movie should start, with us looking in a book. More movies should start with books. Actually, every movie should start with books. Even movies not based on books. Even movies that don't have books in them. Even movies that denounce books should have books that start with books. Because books are our friends, and we should treat them nice. It starts with a book, showing us the definition of the word lycanthropy, which I can actually pronounce. And then we go to our hero, Larry Talbot, coming home to Talbot Castle with his father after he's been away for 18 years because his older brother died tragically. That's all we know about his older brother is he died tragically. His father, Sir John Talbot, making him a knight of whatever kingdom they live in. This movie takes place in like early 1900s. So he's a knight of whatever. He doesn't wear armor or anything, but he's a knight apparently. So he comes home and they get a new part for the telescope, which they use to spy on the village instead of look at the stars. And our hero Larry uses it to spy on girls. Because every good hero should spy on girls with a telescope. And then he goes to meet the girl and tries to flirt with her. Because the best way to pick up girls is to use by being a peeping Tom. He then tries to make a date with her, which she refuses, but he shows up anyways. And she invites her friend Jenny along. Now, I think she was trying to hook him up with Jenny, but that's just my opinion. And they go to get their fortunes read from some gypsies who just got in town, one of them being played by the legendary Bela Lugosi. Now, our hero Larry is played by Lon Chaney Jr., and his dad is played by Claude Rains. This movie's got some real horror legends in it. Bela Lugosi's character, Bela, gives Jenny a fortune read, and she sees a pentagram in her palm. And he tells her to flee. And then we hear her scream. So Larry runs out to find her and sees a wolf eating Jenny. So he beats the wolf with the cane he bought from the luscious Gwen, the girl he's stalking and trying to hook up with. Like stalking ever works to hook up with a girl. And he beats the wolf to death with the cane. But he gets bit in the process several times. And the other gypsy lady helps him and Gwen, helps her and Gwen take Larry back to Talbot Castle, where he recovers from his wounds in a night miraculously. But the authorities find his cane next to Bela's beaten body with no shoes on. So Larry, wondering why his cane's next to Bela's body, goes to check out the cemetery. Because where else would he go? To see Bela's body. And the gypsy lady's there. They don't talk. Larry just sneaks a peek at the body. Because what else is he going to do in the cemetery but look at bodies? I suppose he could dig up bodies, but this is Wolfman, not Frankenstein. So digging up bodies should be legal. I mean, where else are we going to get locally sourced skeletons from for our lawn ornaments? And it's always good to go locally sourced skeletons for your lawn ornaments for Halloween instead of getting those expensive artificial ones, because the locally sourced ones are locally sourced and look much more real. Anyways, back to the movie. Larry realizes he's turning into a Wolfman and becomes a Wolfman, goes out at night and kills the cemetery worker, whose name I don't remember because he's only in 2 scenes, and eats him. And then the cops find his body and realize his throat is slit, just like Jenny's. Now, Larry figures out there are wolf footprints leading back to his house, and so do the authorities. Larry tries to wipe them off of his room. He realizes something is wrong, so he goes to see Gwen. Well, runs into the old gypsy lady, who who gives him a pendant and tells him that this will protect him from being the wolf, which he gives to Gwen because to protect her from turning into a wolf, which he won't do. I don't know. This movie doesn't make sense. Apparently, he doesn't believe in werewolves, though he's clearly becoming a werewolf. But Jan does, or Gwen does, and the old man, a gypsy lady, does. But his father thinks it's an allegory for humans having good and bad inside them. And the doctor thinks it's schizophrenia. And they have this conversation at one point in the living room. The doctor thinks it's schizophrenia. His dad, played by Claude Rains, thinks it's an allegory for good and bad inside everybody. And the police chief thinks anyone who thinks they're turning into a wolf should be locked in an asylum. And then they set up traps for the wolf, which Larry gets caught in one. Luckily, the gypsy lady's there to cast a spell on him to turn him back into Larry and free him. And then he goes, I'm out hunting the wolf. I'm not the wolf. He doesn't add, I'm not the wolf, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did. Because he's clearly limping at this point, and his foot is cut, which I'm surprised they didn't notice. But, they are holding candle lights. So I'm not sure when this movie is supposed to take place. They have cars, they have guns, but they're holding candlelight lanterns. So, as I said, I'm not real positive when this movie is supposed to take place in time. His father's a knight. He's not a knight. He's got a telescope that looks like it's from the 40s, but he used it to spy on women. As I'm not real sure when this movie is supposed to take place in time. Anyways, Larry realizes he has to leave town, but his father talks him out of it and ties him to his dungeon torture chair. Because we all have dungeon torture chairs in our basement, don't we? And his father leaves him to go find the gypsy lady, I guess, or go walk in the woods with his son's cane. I don't know what his father's doing in the woods exactly. Setting everything up for looking for the wolf? Don't really know. But Larry somehow escapes the dungeon torture chair and becomes the wolf again. At which point, they're shooting at him, but they didn't remember only a silver bullet can kill a werewolf. Which no one seemed to believe he was a werewolf before, but they're all believing it now, which doesn't make sense again, but This movie doesn't have to make sense. It's clearly entertaining, though. But then Gwen's out looking for him in the forest. Why Gwen wouldn't go to his house, once again, I don't know. I mean, she can clearly get a ride from someone. Or steal a horse, steal a donkey, steal a goat, steal a cow. I mean, it's always fun to ride cows. I mean, anyways, maybe she has to cross the forest to go to his house. I'm not real sure on things here. But, anyways, so he attacks Gwen, but his father finds him and beats him to death with a cane, which has a silver head on it. And then the gypsy lady turns him back to Larry, and his father mourns his death. And the town goes, well, the wolf was attacking Gwen, so Larry got involved, and that's how Larry died. So Larry died a hero, even though he was the werewolf. And that's the end. This is one of those shizzle or snazzle horror movies, what I call it. Snazzle horror movies that every horror fan should see. It is on Amazon Prime. Surprisingly, not on Peacock right now. It is on Amazon Prime right now. And it is a great horror movie for those who want to watch classic horror movies. Don't go in this horror movie expecting Jason. There's not a lot of death. There's not a lot of blood. Or there's no blood, actually. I mean, it's classic horror from the 40s. It's from 1941. There's no nudity. But it's a classic horror movie. Great entertainment. Great fun to watch. Doesn't have to make the most sense. But what horror movie does have to make sense? So check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. I give it 12 out of 10 stars. Come back next week. We will watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, one of my favorite horror movies in recent years.